when we look around at the church as a whole, there's a gigantic gap between who we are now and the version of Jesus, the version of us that Jesus intends for us to become. And ultimately that's manifest in his model and example. So daily we're bombarded with stories of how Jesus followers are betraying him and how we conduct their lives and interact with others. Why are we often elevating power above service? Why isn't the transformative power of Jesus changing us for the better? What false teachings have we wrongly brought into our lives? And ultimately, in this just looking around, the church is changing dramatically. And so my question to you three is, what's going on? And I think for me, when I think about it, part of at a higher level, the question or the observation is the further we get away from the cross, it seems the closer we become, the more like the people in the story that we become that are not Jesus, those that flee, those that betray, those that accuse. And there's something to the story of the cross that I think gives us an answer. What do you think is going on there?
The scary thing about what's going on and where we're at is the people in that story, they were on the way to the cross hadn't even happened.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here following the cross and have God's word and the gospels that talk about it. And yet we're still, as a society, shifting away further and further from the cross and from God, unfortunately. And I think it's just a good reminder, first off, that God is in control. There are no surprises to him. And we know how this is all going to end. But as you were talking about, one of the questions was, why haven't we been transformed? But it's, it says in the Bible that it's glory by glory. And, every day is part of the sanctification.
When I talk with people that are not Christians or people that are newer Christians, we are often talking about Christians, the failure of Christians in terms of the obstacles to them in their faith, which isn't new, but it's certainly something that's prominent for sure.
It's a room full of sinners.
So how do we reconcile that? Because we are supposed to be the light, but yet seem to be full of darkness.
So I remember a few years ago when the book Unchristian came out and from Barna, and they had the study asking non-Christians what they perceived to be of Christians. It was like the top three were too judgmental, too hypocritical, and too involved in politics. And it was like in the 70s and 80 percentiles that we were judged that way. And so the reason I think that disconnect is nobody would really care that we were hypocrites if we weren't judgmental, right? So I think it's the combination of those two that a lot of times we in the white evangelical church, which I think captures most of us in this Zoom room, we have a history of focusing on the things that are outside of us instead of trying to take care of ourselves first. So we become known far more for what we stand against than who and what we stand for. And so when you have that kind of judgmental posture and hypocrisy inside the church, it's a pretty deadly combination. I think if we weren't so judgmental and we were focusing on ourselves, people wouldn't care. They'd say, yeah, I'm a hypocrite too. But that judgmental stance, I think.
And is that judgmental stance, is that a pride and an arrogance driven? And is it a you, not me kind of thing? Or how would you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Well, I think so. I mean, if you look at the things that historically the church has been so staunchly against over the past couple of decades, it's been things that most people don't really deal with, right? So we've been known for being crusading against LGBT people, right, in legislature, and trying to write laws that keep people, gay people from getting married, and standing against abortion, but oftentimes without coming alongside the women who are facing those difficult challenges. Speaking for men in particular, those are things that most of us don't experience, don't have to deal with. And so it's easy for us to take a moral high ground and point to those things, and we don't deal with the things that we struggle with or wrestle with instead, if that makes sense.